Hello everyone, AJ here. So this is just a quick video to help you decode, right, the MBTI four letters that you would often get after you have gone through the profiling instrument or the test. Okay, so this method will show you how to come up with your top four cognitive functions or your cognitive stack. Okay, so the first example that I gave here would be an INFJ, right? Right. So the first letter in the four letters is an I, which means that the type is a introverted type. So again, let me stress that introverted here does not mean the same as the dictionary or the social definition of introversion, right? So over here, introverted, it actually means or defines whether the person would be looking more towards himself or herself within, or whether the person is more focused towards his or her environment. Okay, so if the person is more focused towards the outside world, then that person will be extroverted. And if the person looks more within himself or herself, then that would be introverted. Okay, so that's the I. Now, skipping the second and third letters, let's go to the last letter. Okay, so the last letter here is a J. So the J here, it actually stands for in an indication on which of either the second or the third letter is an an extroverted function. Okay, so this one will indicate whether which function is an extroverted function. So you might be confused. If this is an I, then how come over here it says that there's an extroverted function? So remember, I think what based on what I indicated in the previous video, if you haven't seen that, let me just repeat again that you need to have both introverted and extroverted functions in your cognitive function or cognitive stack. And it's not possible as a human being for you to have just purely introverted or purely extroverted functions within you because you wouldn't be able to survive in the world, right? You need introverted functions to reflect internally within yourself, and you need extroverted functions to be able to collect information or to interact with the outside world, okay, the external world. So here you see that you can see that the extroverted function is a judging function. So which slot is the judging function over here? It would be the third slot over here. This one. Okay, that one. So, because that is an extroverted function, what you do is, in terms of the notation that they would normally apply, you put a small e, okay, beside the letter. Okay, so you have FE, which stands for extroverted feeling. Now, once you decode that, for the second letter, let me stress, it must be an introverted function. It cannot be an extroverted function as well. Again, it's because you need to balance between extroverted and introverted functions. So, and over here, in terms of notation, you should put a small I. Okay, so the small I indicates that it's introverted intuition. Right. So what you have done here is you have decoded the top two functions, cognitive functions in your cognitive stack. Now, when you look at the I over here, remember that this personality type is an introverted type. So the dominant function here should also be an introverted function. Okay, so when you have an introvert and introverted type, the dominant function in the stack would also be an introverted function as well. Okay, so over here, the introverted function is introverted intuition. So when you put it in this grid, okay, you put it there. The second or the auxiliary function would be FE, okay, at the extroverted feeling. Okay, that's how you put it. The third function will be below the second function. And how do you define the third function? Okay, the third function would be uh, opposite of what the second function is. Okay, so if the second function is extroverted feeling, then the third function will be introverted thinking. Okay, so the notation for introverted thinking is TI. And the fourth, notice that I put the fourth function beneath number one, right? So it goes one, two, three, four, this way. So the fourth function will be opposite of number one. So opposite of introverted intuition will be extroverted sensing. Okay, so SE stands for extroverted sensing. So this would be the cognitive stack, what do you call as the cognitive stack for the INFJ personality type. So why does this matter? Well, again, as we mentioned, this is for you to identify what will be the top four cognitive functions that you use in your personality. Right. So number one is the dominant function, which you will use most of the time, right? Which is introverted intuition for an INFJ. Number two is the auxiliary, or what sometimes they call it a parent function. Okay, this one will be extroverted feeling for an IMJ. The third would be the tertiary function, which is introverted thinking, right? And the last function over here, which is often called the inferior function. Okay, the inferior function for an INFJ is extroverted sensing. Now, why is it called inferior? Is because out of the four functions in this stack, the last one will be the least used, right? But then, if you were to look at these four, all of them would actually serve a purpose in order to help you become a better person. So this is not just to tell you about limitations, but actually this is a map that's meant for you to improve yourself. Okay, so I think it's similar in concept, even to people who learn astrology. That astrology is not just about, for example, saying that you can only do this and you can only do that, but it is also meant to identify your weaknesses and what you're supposed to overcome. So same thing over here, that you have introverted intuition as your strongest function for an energy, but at the same time, you must also strive to use the rest of the functions as well in order to be more balanced. Okay, so this is an example for an FG. Let's work out another example. So let's say that the other example is extroverted example. Okay, let's say we are looking at ENFP. Right. Okay, so looking at the codes again, right? The first letter is E, which means that this type is an extroverted type. The last letter is a P, which means that the extroverted function is a perceiving function. So a perceiving function is the second slot. Always remember this, that the second slot here, the second letter is a perceiving function. The third letter is a judging function. Perceiving, judging. Perceiving, judging. Okay. In this case, it says that the extroverted function is the perceiving function. So this one, we add a small e. Okay, so it becomes extroverted intuition. So when you put an e here, remember that the next letter that you need to fill will be an I. Okay, it cannot be an e as well. It must be an I. So it will be Fi. Okay, so you have defined the top two functions, okay, for your personality type. So fill up your grid. Sorry, just one more step. Because this type is an extroverted type, the dominant function, the number one function, must also be an extroverted function. Okay, it cannot be an introverted function. So because we have NE over here, so NE or extroverted intuition becomes number one. So the introverted function here, Fi, introverted feeling becomes number two. Okay, what about number three and number four? So as we had worked out in the previous example, uh, number three would be the opposite of number two. So the opposite of introverted feeling will be extroverted thinking. or TE, okay, in terms of its notation. Okay, and the opposite of extroverted intuition will be introverted sensing, or SI, okay, for short. Okay, so you have defined the top four functions in the cognitive stack for an ENFP over here, right? So those are the two examples that I can give on how to decode your MBTI codes. Right, so I hope that you find it useful. So hopefully in the subsequent videos, I'll be able to explain more about this. Right? Thank you very much.